and welcome to the show. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Hey, everybody. It is July 28th, 2024. I'm excited to see you. And hey, guess what? We hit 19,000 subscribers. I thought that was really cool. I did not notice until a friend reached out, messaged me, and let me know that we hit 19K. And I was sitting and thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? I want to take regular calls. I want to talk to people, have great conversations, but why not do a bit of behind the scenes work? What people don't know is that I do video editing, I do coaching, and I also do advisory work on, helping people get their own shows started and all of that. I'm generally pretty pricey, and I thought that why don't I share some of those skills a little bit, give people an idea of what it takes to maybe start their own YouTube channel or start their own streaming career or hobby or whatever they'd like, and just kind of give a glimpse into what that looks like. I do have callers, and so here's what I'm thinking. I would love to take calls, and I'm thinking between each call I can give a little bit more information, maybe let you know what I'm using, what you can use, and just bits of what goes into it. So first off, let me get the phone number out there. That way people who want to call in can. The phone number is here. 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. I would love to talk to you. Actually, I had somebody call in who was waiting, who wanted to talk about the JTB model of knowledge. I would love to have that conversation. So Matt, if you can call back in, I'd love to see if we can get a good connection and talk. I am seeing that I'm already getting a super chat. Thank you, Off the Chain Atheist. Just so people know, I read super chats, all of the super chats at the end of every episode. So if you do want to get my attention or want me to read something, that is how you can do it. Another way that you can support the show is by going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. I charge once per episode, so usually that's 4 times a month. Sometimes there's a fifth. Okay. I know I'm getting off tangent, but I do want to let everybody know that I am going to be gone one Sunday next month. So heads up, I will not be doing a show on August 25th. V's birthday is on the 23rd. We're going to go and have some fun, and I'm going to be out of town. So I'm going to try and do something special. I'd love to. If you have an idea of what you'd love to see as a pre-recorded thing, let me know, and I'll see if I can put something together to go out that day. All right. With that said, here's what I'm thinking. What is one of the most basic things that someone would need if they wanted to start streaming? Turns out you don't need a camera or a microphone. On Twitch, there are people who just play games. And so I think the first thing that I want to show you is what streaming software looks like. The streaming software that I use is called Wirecast. It's a little bit pricey. It's something that I learned how to use at the ACA, and I'm going to show you what a screenshot of that what that looks like. This is me sharing my screen. I apologize for the craziness. Let me see here. Maybe I can remove that, and you can see that on one side of the screen you have the shot that I have queued up next, and you have the current shot going out. You can arrange the different things that you want to show people on different layers. And then as they go, you just add those layers up. So as an example, when I run the intro, I have the intro video here. And when I run it, that goes over everything. And because it's on the top layer, everything under it is hidden. And then when it comes to callers, right, I've got the caller text and the little graphic that goes under it, and then myself under that, and obviously the audio underneath. If you do not want to pay an arm and a leg, it's totally understood. There is open source software that you can use to stream. It's called OBS, and it's been around for a while. It's got some really great integrations. I took a screenshot of it. This is kind of what OBS looks like. It's similar to Wirecast. You can load in your assets. You have your your preview, and then you have your live feed that you're sending out. So if you were wondering what streaming software looks like, that's what it looks like. Again, I don't know if this is useful or interesting to everybody, but I thought it'd be fun. I get questions from time to time about what goes into making this happen. So I've got other things to show you, but I've got callers on the line, and I would love to take a few. So let's start our first caller. Let's talk to Rogue Show in South Carolina. Rogue Show, you are live on the show.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing as good as expected, which is kind of good.
Okay. Well, sometimes it's the best you can ask. What do you want to talk about today?
So you often talk about respecting the person and not the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my interesting question is, I guess, what line do you draw, and where's the line to where you stop, to where you pretty much have to stop respecting a person?
That's a really good basic question that I haven't really answered in a really long time. So I guess it's good to bring it up. So when I think about respecting people and ideas, I feel like there's an extra layer there that I don't really talk about, and it's good to go into. I think we should always respect the humanity of other human beings, no matter how much you might dislike them. Respecting them as a human who deserves to breathe air,
Yeah.
is important, and I don't ever want to let go of that. There are times when I can be really bitter and angry, and I feel like that falters, but the best version of myself is always going to respect the humanity of other people, period. The next piece of it is respecting their time or their attention, things like that. I generally give that for free. If somebody is wanting to talk to me at first, I assume I want to be as charitable as possible. So I want to give them that.
Yeah.
And from there, it's really up to the conversation. When I say respect a person and not the ideas, what I don't want to do is I don't want to have somebody conflate who they are with the ideas they hold. A lot of people think that they are just the collection of their ideas, and they're not. You are a collection of stories that you tell yourself about yourself. That is true, right? That whole set of stories about who you were growing up and what influenced you to make you who you are. That is who you are. Cool. But what you believe can change. I feel like the best version everybody has of themselves is one who's, willing to listen and to grow. Everyone wants to be able to grow. And so, I feel like if you tie yourself personally to an idea, then you don't give yourself the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And so, I can disrespect an idea. I can say something is stupid and awful and whatever. It doesn't mean the person is stupid and awful. You can have a really, really bad take, but that doesn't mean that you're really bad. But I feel like the way that you ask this, it's more along the lines of how much of an asshole does someone have to be before you stop respecting them? Is that kind of what you mean?
I guess, I guess, like, for instance, we all know and hate Donald Trump, because not only his ideas are bad, but he does asshole things. And
Okay.
I guess something I guess I want to touch on. Something I guess I want to touch on what you said is at least I hope it does.
What's up?
So the idea that belief informs actions, and
Sure. I
when you
absolutely.
when you hold the belief that trans people or gay people are an abomination, that can inform the action, just like beat beat someone up based on that, or
commit a hate crime. Yeah,
Um,
I'm right
So-
there with you.
I guess is that sort of a line you draw? Is that sort of a line? Is that sort of a line you draw when it comes to respect, or does it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So I think that in my personal life, if somebody's a bigot, I really don't have room for them, period. I don't make room for them in my life. I don't give them my time. I don't give them my emotional investment. It's just not worth it to me. It's just not. But I feel like, given that I have a call-in show, I have a platform, I feel like I have a moral, ethical responsibility to put up with bullshit that I wouldn't normally put up with in my everyday life. Right? I feel like I'm doing that so you don't have to, you know? and challenging those ideas so people can at least see that they can be challenged. So I first kind of want to draw that line that, you know, just because I might do something on this show doesn't mean I would do it in everyday life, and it doesn't mean I would want you to either. So I kind of want to put that down first. Second, you know, since I have those two buckets, then let's look at each bucket. One of the buckets is this show. When it comes to this show, I want to show that those kinds of bigoted views either aren't consistent or are consistently reprehensible.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I have a lot of practice in being able to show, to demonstrate, and to walk people towards their own bigotry and show them the awful cliff that they're actually residing next to. And I feel like that's useful. And then again, the other bucket, if someone is a bigot and I just don't have room for them. And I used to not make room for those people, you know, but have those people in my family that I just would put up with. I don't even do that anymore. I have family.
Yeah, you're your own man. You're the
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is a lot,
the big shoes now.
Not everybody does that, and I'm totally okay with that, and I totally understand that. But I just don't have patience for it. I realize that, you know, family members who are going to be bigots, I'll call them out on it, and they don't like it, and so if we don't like spending time around each other, then, you know, happy trails. But if I'm going to give like advice when to stop respecting a person, you can draw your line as tight as you want it to be. And I think that's totally okay, especially when it comes to personal interactions. You know, you get to decide the kinds of people you want to be around, the interactions that you want to have and not have. And you have the right to draw those boundaries where you see fit. As for me, I try and keep those different things separated, right? What I do on this show is, like I said, I think useful for the viewer. But yeah, I don't know. Does that help at all? Does it clarify anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I guess it's. I don't know. It's kind of like I feel like it's like kind of like my grandma. She's highly conservative. She's highly conservative.
Mm-hmm.
She even shows up in GOP meetings and whatnot. But I still guess hang out. I still hang out with her and sort of do her yard work.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
I guess I respect her as a person.
And you love her. Yeah. And I feel like, could it be that your grandma knows to maybe not talk about certain topics around you?
Oh, she definitely knows. Or she definitely doesn't know.
She does not know not to talk about certain topics around you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I actually lived with her not too long ago.
Okay.
And she would often talk about how the Democrats were killing babies or something.
Oh, jeez.
I just didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to deal with it, but I had to.
Well, you don't have to. What I've found, and this is just what's worked in my life, is that.
Well, no, I'm talking about like just having to hear. I'm just talking about like just having to hear it.
Yeah. Well,
and not.
What I'm saying is, What's worked in my life is saying, hey, I love spending time with you. I love you. I really want to put this topic off the table to talk about because it makes me very uncomfortable and it makes me not want to be around. And so if you want me to spend time with you and you want me to be happy when I'm around you, let's talk about other things. And if she does not want to respect that, then if you spend less time with her and she goes, well, how come you're not spending time with me? You say, I told you. I told you that you were making me really uncomfortable and I didn't want to spend time around you if you were going to do that thing. You know, and let her own the responsibility of her own actions. You do not need to own it for her. The only way that I would see that being wrong or being like maybe iffy is if your grandma had dementia.
Yeah.
You know, but like if she's a functioning adult human being, yeah, no, if you say, hey, this thing makes me uncomfortable, if she wants you to be comfortable, there's that. And if she wants to make fun of it or say, you know, well, that's stupid or whatever, they say, I just told you what makes me uncomfortable. And if you don't accept that, that's kind of your thing to own, you know, and then spend less time with her. Turns out, you know, sometimes you gotta hold yourself hostage. That's how some very close members of my family got vaccinated. After COVID, they were like, Eric, when am I going to spend time with you? I'm like, are you vaccinated? Hell no. Then never. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, I am not going to spend time with people who are unvaccinated. Well, that's stupid. And I said, well, that's my line. So, and 4 months later, they messaged me and said, I got vaccinated. Will you spend time with me? I said, sure. They still think it's stupid. But they did it because they'd rather do that and see me again than not. I held myself hostage.
Yeah.
So, and
I guess.
Oh, go ahead.
I guess another reason, I guess, why I sort of asked that question is that because there are plenty of times where I feel like I'm being manipulated or I feel like I'm being abused, by someone or close to me. Because sometimes just, I guess, no way of telling someone's intentions or how I should interpret someone's actions.
Yeah.
Am I making sense? Sorry.
That's okay.
Just to be clear, am I making sense, or is just?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're making sense. I'm sorry. I'm I had a drop.
Okay.
I had a drop in the frame rate or the bit rate speed of the connection to the YouTube, and so I just wanted to make sure that we're still going out. But you are making sense.
Yeah. So there are like instances where I feel like I'm being manipulated or like led astray or I guess abused verbally, and it's really hard to tell like where to draw a line, or where to set a boundary as far as respect goes. Based on like my upbringing.
Rogue Show. It sounds like you're in your 20s. Does it?
Yeah, I'm actually 20.
Yeah. I'm guessing these people that you're interacting with are in their 40s, 50s.
My grandma's 70, and a lot of my friends tend to be 30.
Okay. They're grown-ass adults who have had to figure out the hard way how to set boundaries for themselves.
Yeah.
They have done it too. And you're not going to get it right. Not the first time and probably not the fifth time. But setting boundaries for yourself is something you're going to need to do. In my case, I'll tell you right now that I didn't learn how to set boundaries for myself until very abusive people, worked their way into my lives and ruined my 20s.
Yeah.
So just, set boundaries for yourself and be honest and tell them. And if it doesn't work, then adjust it. No thing, that kind of stuff isn't permanent. You can shift and change, you can experiment and adjust. Just have as much patience and empathy for them as you're hoping to receive from them, right? If you want them to take the time and respect you and the boundaries that you're at and what you're setting forward for them, then be lenient with them and understand and meet them where they are as well,
Yeah.
It's totally okay to experiment. You don't need to come up with a perfect answer the first time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And,
yeah, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Tell Mocha that some random white guy said hi.
Could you hear her sneezing in the background, my little cat? Yeah. Will do. Thank you. And I don't mean to be like offensive. I realized I said grown. I recognize you are a grown ass adult as well. And so I don't want to put that down. I apologize. I just,
no, like, I get the distinction.
Yeah. You have people who've had more time to learn how to adult, and they should fucking act like it.
Yeah.
Rogue Show, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for calling in.
Thank you. I'll be in the live chat if you need me, I guess.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Oh my goodness. We got more callers, some really good topics. But as I said, a little bit more info for everybody. And so I went over streaming software before the call. So let's go over Let's go over a little bit of hardware for fun. Yeah. Okay. So this microphone that I use, it is an SM7B. It is kind of what has become the gold standard for podcasters. And the reason that it is, there are two types of, microphones for the most part. People can be pedantic, but microphones generally fall into two categories. There are cardioid microphones and condenser microphones. Now, when I was at the ACA, the cardioid microphone that we used here was an AT2020. This is what it looks like. If you want to get into podcasting, you don't want to spend a bunch of money. These things cost $100, and they lasted us for multiple shows for years on end. Were really reliable, had great sound, and for $100, it plugs directly into your computer. So, definitely worth it in my opinion. That is a condenser microphone. It has a tiny little filament in there that moves with sound waves, and that's how it picks up the sound. It's really, really, cardioid microphones, like the AT2020 here, are really useful in sound-treated rooms. They can pick up a lot of tiny things. And so if you want to do an audiobook, if you want to, record an album or something like that, cardioid microphones are the way to go. And the reason it's called cardioid, if you're wondering, is because there's a pickup pattern generally, and you're looking at kind of the shape of a heart. And so that is cardioid microphones. Condenser microphones are different. They're a little bit more rugged. They're very directional. I'm speaking into the front of the microphone. There is not they're not omnidirectional. And because of that, there's significant drop off. I do this because I'm not in a super sound treated room. And, if you have other people who are also on a show with you, or, you're interviewing someone, you don't want your mics to pick up each other that much. And so using something like this is beneficial. The best example that I have of using a condenser mic like this is, I remember V and I were doing Talk Heathen in V's apartment. And there was like a 6-car pileup on the road, not far outside of V's window. It was nuts. And it did not get picked up on the show. It was incredible. So that's why there are big price differences, though. As I've said, this AT2020 is $100. The SM7B is $400 plus other gear. I'll talk about some of that gear. Again, this is just for people who want to know about what goes into making these kinds of shows happen. You know what? I'll give a little bit more. What they plug into. So if you want to get a microphone that has oh my goodness, help me in the comments. The name of the cable, I'm forgetting. Essentially, you're going to need to run it into something before your computer. So what I use is this. It's called an XR18. I use it because it has 18 different audio channels, and I'm able to mix them. So, for example, I have the audio from the show. I have different computer audio. I have my audio from this microphone. I have the audio from callers. I want callers to get something called a mix minus, where I send them me and the computer audio, but not their own audio back to them. And then I have a mix of sounds that get sent to Wirecast that get streamed out. And so I'm just able to mix that kind of stuff up and pick what is going where. Most people don't have those kinds of intense needs. So honestly, this is Focusrite Scarlett, I think is what it's called. I don't have links in the description. I'm not getting any kickbacks. These are generally what I point people towards if they want to get started, because they've been shown to work and they last a long time. So cheers to that. All right, let's move on to talk to our next caller. Oh my goodness. Matt, stay on the line. I want to talk to you, but I'm going to take Summer first. I do want to talk to other people as well. So if you want to call in, let me put the phone number up one more time before I take Summer. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. I'd love to talk to you about what you believe and why. Or, you know what? If you have questions or advice on what it takes to make a show happen, be that streaming, podcast, YouTubing, whatever, let me know. Give me a call and I can answer a couple questions about that today as well. All right, let's talk to Summer in California. Summer!
Hey!
Hey!
I'm so happy to talk to you.
I'm happy to talk to you too. Things sounded pretty rough last time you called in, and I'm happy to hear your voice.
Yeah. So, since we spoke, I spent a lot of time studying Camus.
Did you?
I read his entire book. Did some more studying in philosophy.
Hold on. Which book?
Oh, his book about the philosophy of death.
Okay.
Yeah, and what he, anyway, something happened on Monday, and I punched my own ticket. That put me into a 72-hour hold.
Okay.
And I had a lot of time to think. And during that time, I thought of something, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, because before I punched my ticket, okay, I thought I had reached my peak. After reading everything I could find about Camus and Buddhism and those philosophies, I thought I had reached my peak, because I had done something that only 150,000 people in the entire world has ever done. And so punching my own ticket was a way of not being defiant, and I just didn't want my life to play out through a natural demise, And so I thought, so here lies the paradox. This is what I want to ask you. If you reach your peak, and then choose to punch your ticket out, so then you feel like you've reached that peak, or do you choose to be defiant by choosing to be happy in an absurd and indifferent world?
That is definitely what Camus said. It's when I think about it, I think that I feel like there's a sense of camaraderie with Camus, in that I feel absurd and indifferent about myself. And so hearing that the rest of the world is that way at least makes me feel, understood. I am glad that you're still here, first off.
Well, yeah, thank you, because here's something crazy that also happened.
Yeah.
While I was there, I fixed a problem that was causing me to want to punch my ticket, okay? And then something happened. I reached out to someone, and that turned out to be something that I'm in the movie business, news business.
Okay.
And the person I reached out to, I'm going to break this huge national story come December, January. And I made this relationship with this woman while I was in 72-hour hold, which was the absolute worst place. It is a prison, like they check on you every 15 minutes and they, strip me down and made sure, and constant, it was horrible, and people, and they were horrible. And I'm this rich, blonde, white girl. And, and I realized that the universe gave me this new gift to live for and to help. And so I started questioning my atheism, not in terms of I think that maybe there's a God, but maybe there's something else that wants us to, I can't explain it, Eric, but I was hoping that I could kind of get into this with you a little bit, where if you have a major life experience and then it changes you. You get a different perspective on life.
Yeah. So it sounds like you might be, toying with like pantheism or panentheism, right? This kind of idea that everything is, this larger, greater, potentially conscious thing. Does that sound about right?
Right.
Or
yeah. Or that there's, I don't know, like everyone. I mean, the help that I received from my friends was, just, I didn't realize that I had all this great support. I didn't like the shame that people, gave me for trying to punch my own ticket, like I didn't need that at that time.
Yeah.
I needed to be uplifted. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, when you have that experience and you start thinking that maybe that consciousness just changes the way it reacts in the physical world.
I think that, to me, I think that I find it more empowering and a little more convincing that the physical world that we're in is impacted by our, tangential physical choices. And so, like, having intentionality, right? If you're talking about like, I want to, do better at X, Y, or Z, I want to, be more motivated towards X, Y, and Z. I'm going to look for these opportunities. You're definitely setting yourself up for success, and that you're more likely to make those kinds of things happen. But I don't think that the universe necessarily bends to our wills, as much as we prime ourselves to take advantage of the opportunities that we're given if we, have that kind of intentionality.
Yeah. But it just seems like such an accident that I would reach out to this one person in that moment of fear, and like, because my only goal was to get out of there after the 72 hours, because they could keep you longer if they wanted.
Yeah, they could.
And so I've given this great gift now, and I've got so much to live for. But like, what are the chances of something like that happening? Like,
I don't know.
It just makes me rethink atheism. I don't know. Why would I think that? Why would anyone think that?
Well, because it can be comforting. And I'm not trying to be offensive in any way. It's just, it can be really comforting. The thing,
Also,
so I feel like there's this emptiness, this fear of standing right at the precipice, right? When you're at the top of a very large cliff and you look down, you get that vertigo in your stomach. When you're facing nihilism. And I feel like responding to nihilism, Camus would say, you know, it's a dark void, and that's it. You know, in spite of it, you know, set up a picnic at the top of the cliff. um, and I think that there are other ways to view it. You know, if you replace nihilism with, you know, some kind of intentional, you know, universe, then I definitely feel like it's a whole lot more comfortable. But I also think that there are other ways to view nihilism, you know. Did I also mention, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? Sartre.
oh yeah,
So Sartre said, create your own meaning, right? If you're faced with a meaningless universe, if you're faced with just this entire cliff's edge of nothingness, then that's prime real estate for you to make whatever you want, you know? And
Yeah.
that is something that you can fill with as much meaning as you want. And it's beautiful and amazing. And a lot of people take that and go with that. It's called existentialism. I feel like it's a lot less hard-edged, but if you're wondering about like questioning your atheism, here's what I would say. Question as much as humanly possible. Explore as much of this beautiful world as you can. Take as much time as you need, and don't settle for shitty responses, and don't listen or look for thought-stopping techniques. Don't listen to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't listen to me and go, I'm going to do this because Eric said so. No, find your reasons and explore it. I think that you might benefit from a journey. You know, go on a spiritual journey.
Yeah, I know.
Feel out the depth and the breadth of it, and just never stop asking questions.
Yeah, and another thing that has happened is that I'm not afraid of death anymore. Like,
Isn't
it's not a
that
worry
a
for
freedom?
me. Yes.
Oh my
fucking!
God.
I don't know. If it,
You,
yes.
yes, you can say fuck.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I gotta tell you, going on flights, getting on airplanes after losing my fear of death has changed everything.
Yes. I mean, on the expressway, you know, like driving 90 miles an hour or whatever, like, you know, I'm not afraid of anyone. Like, it's given me such freedom. Like I had to hit fucking rock bottom to be able to live again.
Just do me a personal favor.
Yeah.
Don't go 90 on the freeway. There are other people too. And I'm sure I'm sure a lot of them are afraid of death. Okay.
But do you think most people are afraid of death?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So don't you think that everyone would benefit from doing something like this to like what is a way for people to
Confront their
to
own mortality.
experience? What's that?
I'm sorry. I tried to jump ahead to where I thought you were going. I apologize.
Oh.
I said to confront their own mortality.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. You know, I'm kind of two minds about it.
I'd love to hear.
Well, on one side of it, I think that I have this kind of protectionist, I maybe people should not, face this. And I definitely don't want anybody to hit rock bottom, because rock bottom sucks. It is the worst
Oh,
club.
hell yeah.
I'm not giving
Yeah.
tickets out. I don't want anybody to find the entrance to the club. It's a crappy
Yeah,
place to
I don't
be.
recommend that.
No. We're both card carrying members, and trust me, it's not fun. It is not fun. That said, I've been thoroughly convinced that I should not try to think for other people. People need to have the opportunity to think for themselves, and I need to respect them enough to give them the freedom to do that. So I'm kind of on both sides of that, right? Like, while I would want to protect everyone that I can from the bottomless feeling drop of this kind of nihilism and questioning your existence, I also would not want to take that away from them either. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that there are probably some evolutionary advantages to fearing death, and there are definitely more and less preferential ways to go. There are some ways that are much more painful that I would not be interested in. I don't know, but I do understand the freedom of it. And I hope, Summer, that it can give you the freedom to kind of suck the marrow out of life.
Exactly. Like, that's what this experience gave me. Like, I thought I had reached my peak, and I thought that, that was a great time to punch out.
Yeah.
Like, then I wouldn't have to die this, like, slow death, like my family passing away from cancer. Like, so, but then given this new opportunity, because of what I did, gave me a whole new reason to live. So it's really a strange, like, therein lies the paradox, right? Like, if I wouldn't have done that, then I don't know. I can't. I'm so confused. I don't know. Do you recommend anything else that I could read or dive into?
Let me see here. There is a book that I am going to need to find. It's the something cafe. It's not the existentialist cafe. I think it's the name of a flower or a color. If somebody in the comments can help me figure this out, it's essentially a description of Sartre and of existentialism. And I'm gonna need.
Well, I could leave my email with, like, the person that took the call or whatever, and
You know what?
If you get back to me or something.
Shoot me an email at contactskepticgeneration@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I'll get it to you.
Okay.
But I'm glad you're still here, and I'm glad you have a new lease on life.
Me too, Eric. Me too. I was thinking in the hospital, like, I couldn't wait to talk to you again.
Good. And I want another call, okay?
Oh, yes, really? Okay.
Yes. That's the thing. That's one of the reasons I started this show, is to have ongoing conversations with people. People can see how people change and grow and relate, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
I love it. I love you. Oh my God.
Aw.
Have a great vacation with V.
Will do.
And I will call you in a few weeks.
Sounds good. Summer, have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that's heavy. That's heavy. Sending love. I'm glad you're still here. That was rough. All right. I'm going to shake it off. All right. Let's do this, everybody. I've got more callers, But as I said, I'm going to show you a couple more insights into what it takes to make a show happen. If you are joining us, and it is later into the show, we hit 19,000 subscribers. I thought it would be a good time to show a little bit of behind the scenes and what makes this happen. So I showed you streaming software. I showed you audio. I think I'm going to show you call-in studio. So when I was starting, first doing call-in shows, we didn't have the technological benefits that are around, nowadays. It's just, we had a call bank, one of the old school, phone answering systems with all the different lines that you had to pay for. And it was a whole to do. It made doing this kind of thing way out of people's league because it was way too expensive. Well, then tools like this came in. This is, this right here is Call-In Studio. It is a web interface. It is a browser-based program that you can use. You pay for the phone line, you pay for all the other lines that come in, all the benefit, all the different, bells and whistles for it. But if you're wondering how I'm able to take calls, how I'm able to do it all toll free, this is how I do it. If you want to check out Call-In Studio and you want to start your own call-in show, I recommend it. I feel like there are a lot of people who look at shows like this and treat it with a scarcity mindset. There's only so much that you can do. There's only so many, programs out there, and maybe you're flooding the market. I don't think so. I think that the more programs that are like this, the more options people have, the more you got to get good, or, or you're not going to get a viewership. So I think a rising tide lifts all boats, and I'm very, very open to other people doing that kind of thing. If you do want to start your own call-in show, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to call in and wish you luck. All right, let's move on and talk to Matt in Oregon. Matt.
Eric.
Hey.
Eric, long time, first time. How are you doing, bud?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I can't complain. It's a beautiful day.
Isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really gotten to see it yet. I'm in the basement. But after the show,
That's fair.
I will. So what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot recently. I've been trying to square a definition of knowledge epistemically, and I just take some umbrage with justified true belief and the different types of justification and the burden of justification for different types of claims. And I'm just wondering, I just want to hash it out with someone, anyone, who, I just needed someone to bounce off ideas.
Yeah.
And you've talked about it before, so I just thought this would be a good place to start.
Okay, so interesting. So for people who are, joining this conversation, often people, try to give a definition of knowledge, and one of the definitions that is popular is justified true belief. So you need to have a justification, it needs to be true, and you need to accept it as true for it to be considered knowledge using that definition. And it sounds like you're having trouble with the J, justification, part of that model.
Yeah, it's kind of a two-step, because I'm having trouble with the justification model, and on certain questions I'm having trouble with the truth, because some questions are really easy to find the truth of. Like, my mom drives a RAV4. Very easy to find the truth of.
I also drive a RAV4. So
very nice.
Yeah. Nice.
But then when we talk about more, I don't know, bigger, more almost philosophical questions, it's harder to get to the truth behind it, and it's almost like you need to find the truth in order to have the justification. So I don't even know if for the foremost, I would probably say definition of knowledge, I'm not sure if it does as good of a job as we need it, or if we even can only have one definition of knowledge. And do you ascribe to justified true belief? I don't know.
Hell no. I hate JTB.
No.
I absolutely can't stand it. So you are not alone, first off.
Oh, great.
And seriously, I've been doing this for years, and I personally think that most people in the philosophy space hate the JTB model. So
Interesting.
to me, I found that I've used the word knowledge a whole lot less just because it doesn't have as much value for me. Right? So
Okay.
breaking it apart, the interesting thing, like, oh, here's how I'll go about this. In my philosophy 101 class, the very first time I really took a collegiate course in philosophy, my professor posed a couple of thought experiments, right? So just imagine you are looking out at a field of sheep, right? And you count, and you go, there are 15. I think I'm seeing 15 sheep there. So you say, there are 15 sheep in this field, right? I feel justified about it. I counted them. I don't see any more. I accept it to be true that there are 15 in this field. You can say that you have knowledge that there are 15 sheep in the field, but what if one of those is actually a sheepdog? You just
Right.
didn't see its head. It doesn't happen to be true. Okay. So
Yeah.
did it become knowledge and then not knowledge? Was it never knowledge in the first place? How can you determine whether or not it's true? And then what the professor told me after that is, just imagine that you're looking out at this field again, right? But unknown to you, there's a hill in the field. It just all kind of blends in because it's grass. And behind that hill, there's an extra sheep that you didn't see. So you were right. There were 15 sheep in the field. Now, all of a sudden, you're justified. You counted. It's true. There are 15 sheep in the field, even though you miscounted and you didn't know about that extra one. You accept it to be true. Is that knowledge just as useful as the knowledge that you had beforehand? Or if there was not a hill with a sheep that you didn't see?
Right. I actually did take an epistemology class in university as well. So that's kind of where all of these questions started. And this was like, 10, 12 years ago, but
Yeah, about the same.
But the end of that course, we all kind of landed on a modified version where it leans super heavily into the justification, right? Like having the 14 sheep and the sheepdog and the 15 sheep. We had, very similar thought experiments, and it's just kind of harkening back to what you said. The word knowledge just kind of does lose meaning when you start thinking about it too much, or
Absolutely.
not too much, but yeah.
And for me, what I've done is I've replaced that language in my head, and I've used other things like rational. I take the T out, the true out, because whatever your justifications, whatever you believe, you could be incidentally true, you could be accidentally true, you could be, way off the mark, but
Right.
like the truth of the thing is not necessarily contingent on your justification or what you accept as true. So I take the T out, and instead what that becomes is rational for me. Are you consistent in your head, right? The JB,
Yeah.
justified belief, I treat as rationality. Are you rational
Interesting.
in believing this thing? Right? Are you consistent with your own worldview such that what you are accepting to be true makes sense with everything else in your toolkit? And I feel like that's a whole lot more useful, because if someone is irrational, then they're not making sense in their own worldview. And we can break that apart. If they are rational to themselves, but still wrong, then we can work on their toolkit. We can work on their epistemology, and we can, help at least give them better tools so that they can do better in the future. And so, conversations around rationality are a whole lot more open-ended. If somebody says, "Oh, I know this to be true," that's a conversation ender, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And so just as far as practical matters are concerned, I don't use the word knowledge as much. And I don't know, maybe it's some weird internal, like, virtue signaling to myself that I don't know things.
Right. Well,
And-
yeah, I think the you know, as I'm listening to you kind of break this down, I'm going back to my philosophy 101 class where we're learning about Socrates, and he said the only thing I know is that I know nothing, and that
Yeah.
you know, I think the question, you know, as I just had this thought, and I think the question of knowledge is something that we were really concerned about back in ancient Greece, and it's not something that we really, maybe we don't need to be more concerned about it now, because we are worrying more about like what your rationality and how you came to believe the things that you believe, and whether or not you're justified in those beliefs. And you know, the truth, the big T or little T truth, just kind of, you know, that's kind of out there, and not, you can't really back yourself into truth, like something is either true or not. So
Yeah. Well, it. So, it kind of, it depends, and also,
sure. Well,
and also,
yeah, like it.
like we have to get into the definition of truth at this point, and this is the point where we get a beer, Matt. This is the
Okay.
point where we go. Are you close enough to Portland in Oregon to get a beer, Matt?
I am in North Portland.
You're in North Portland?
I'm in the St. John's neighborhood. Yeah.
No way.
Yes, way.
Next time I'm up in St. John's, shoot me a message. Contact skepticgeneration@gmail.com.
Okay.
All right? Can you do that?
Yeah.
Next time I'm up,
I'll
next time I'm
yeah,
up that
I'll,
way, yeah. I'm sorry. We're talking over each other. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, we are talking over each other. I'll send an email as soon as I'm off the call. Yeah. I would absolutely love to hash this out a little bit more, for sure.
I've been to a place called Mosaic Tap House.
I love Mosaic Tap House.
Yeah. I found it's a queer owned place recently opened up that way. I went up there when they started, so let's figure this out, because definition of truth is a really, really wonderful conversation. I just know that it bores people to tears when I get this deep on a call-in show.
Yeah.
But
I was worried when I called in with this topic that would be the case.
But it's something I absolutely love. Contact skepticgeneration@gmail.com. I look forward to your message.
All right. I look forward to that beer.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yay! I'm going to have a beer with somebody. That feels good. See that? Love it. All right. Let's move on. Oh my goodness, I've got so many callers. I absolutely love this. I may need to speed things up a little bit just so that I can talk to everybody, and I am happy to. So if you want to call in, don't be discouraged. I would love to take those calls. Let's move on and talk to Ted in Pennsylvania. Ted, you're live on the show.
Hi.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's going well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. I'm just getting you in.
Nice day in Pennsylvania.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Nice sunny out.
Nice. I just got you in the lower third, so I am ready to give you my attention. You want to talk about anti-natalism, and oh my goodness, let's do it.
All right. So are you familiar with David Benatar? His asymmetry argument for anti-natalism.
The name does not sound familiar. It doesn't mean that I haven't heard it, but I would love to hear it. Go for it.
So he wrote a book called "It's Better Never to Have Been," where he makes the case that it would be better to never have been born, and so therefore it's better to not exist. And the asymmetry argument basically goes at, just to sum it up real quick, is somebody doesn't get hurt and they don't experience any suffering when they don't exist, and in life there's always going to be some amount of suffering, even if it's very little suffering or a lot of suffering. Mm-hmm. And person that doesn't exist doesn't miss out on the good in life. So they're not, they're not being deprived of the good because they don't exist. Whereas a person that lives can experience a deprivation of good things. So they can also experience good things. But my problem is with the assertion that it is better to not exist because there is no one that experiences said better. And so it can't really be better to not exist unless there's somebody that is appreciating not existing.
That is definitely an interesting approach, and I like that because, yeah, you're definitely looking at, there's nobody who's going to appreciate not existing because who's on the other side of that? By definition, no one's on the other side of that. I don't know. I feel like this is the second conversation that I'm of two minds on. There's like a practical piece to it and there's a philosophical piece to it. So practically, I am a genetic bundle of nah. I just mental health issues, diabetes, cancer, just all kinds of shit in my genes. I don't want to pass those on. And because I don't want to pass those on and the kind of suffering that can happen if I were to pass those genes on, I got snipped. No, thank you. I'm happy. I got a vasectomy. Best thing.
No, I didn't get a vasectomy, but I have chronic depression, which I take medication for.
Right.
And,
yep.
Other issues. So I specifically don't want to have a kid, but Benatar's argument is that all life is better off not existing. Like even like somebody that leads the very best life.
Yeah, and
he says that.
I feel like that's a very, very selfish perspective, because here's the thing. I can have my own views on myself, right? And I have a low self-esteem. I have not made any bones about it on the shows. And so whether or not I think highly of myself, I do have people I do think highly of. There are people who I think have brought joy into my life and who have at times made my life worth living. The people that I've loved and cared about and who have cared about me. And even if they don't put a high value on themselves, I put a high value on them. And so I feel like that argument doesn't take into account the deprivation to everyone else that happens when someone is not around, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like there are people, and there have been people in my life who have been so instrumental in making me the person that I am, that if they were never there, right? If we were to do It's a Wonderful Life, type of here's the world if you had never been born, I definitely think that I would not be. Mm-hmm. I would not have been as. I'm trying to think. I would not be as happy, or would not have had as many joyful experiences. I would not have grown as a person without them. And so I think that it's hard for me to interact with that idea and rationalize that with the love I have of other people,
Right.
And I don't know.
Definitely.
I don't know. I've obviously not had a lot of time to play around with that, thought experiment and that philosophy, and maybe there are really, really good responses to it that I just haven't heard. And so I could, this could be a conversation that would need to go a lot longer, but my gut reaction is, are we taking into account the value that other people place on?
There is something I want to point out about it that I didn't say yet, but is a very important point that most people who criticize Benatar's anti-natalism don't point out. And that is, we already not exist. And yet, use his word, imposed. I didn't exist already, yet a life was still imposed. So clearly, not existing is incapable of stopping a life from being imposed. So it can't be better, because I didn't exist already, and it still didn't stop a life from being imposed. So how can not existing be any better if it's incapable of stopping a life from being imposed?
Well,
You see what I'm getting at?
yes, and it's a question of agency. And so I would imagine that for that argument to make any sense, then that person has to be saying that the impetus is on those people who currently exist, because it would not make sense to give moral judgments to non-existing entities.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe I probably just said exactly what you said back at you. I apologize. But no, okay, yeah.
No, it's good to hear it differently. So yeah, my big point is that for not existing to be better, there has to be appreciation of not existing. Even if the universe ended and there's no longer anyone, no sentient beings whatsoever, for them to say that scenario is better, my point is, would still require
Are they though?
appreciation of.
Are they saying it's better?
There's a lot of.
Or are they saying it's not worse?
Well,
because like
for it to not be worse would also have to.
It doesn't mean it's better. It's just like mitigation of suffering is not giving joy. If I were to prevent abuse, that doesn't mean that I'm giving that person a good life. It just means that I've prevented that abuse. So are they phrasing it as mitigating harm, or are they phrasing it as, preferable or better than the alternative?
Well, for individual lives, I do agree that individual lives, and it would be good for certain people to not be born, like to have procreate in a war zone. That's definitely unethical. Or to give birth to somebody that is going to have a terrible disease or something like that, I'd say that's unethical. But Benatar's thing is that he's talking about life in general, like sweeping statement of like life versus no life. So it applies to every single life there is. So it's just you can put it generically as life versus non-existence.
Yeah.
He's saying non-existence is always better.
And I maybe it has, what it kind of gets me thinking about is neutrality, right? So if I'm not happy and I'm not sad, if I'm anything else, hungry, thoughtful, sleeping.
Yeah, and those are things he includes is discomfort of hunger or the discomfort of having used the bathroom. He says those seem trivial, but he includes those things, which I agree with.
Well, actually, I'm thinking that those aren't necessarily all discomforts. Yes, starving to death sucks. I'm not saying that it doesn't, and I'm not trying to allude to starving to death, but just being hungry is not a net negative. It's. I guess it kind of depends on what you're filling those as. Or is everything else that's not joy pain? And I don't like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. How he sees things. Yeah. I like that. everything that isn't joy is pain.
And I don't agree with that. I think that, people do put a really high premium on joy. But we're not built to be joyful all the time. Built, quote unquote.
Definitely.
But like we're as humans, we're not, that's not a thing. Nobody can be joyful all of the time. That doesn't make everything else suffering. And so I don't know. I feel like it's really going to kind of depend on the person on whether or not they're going to view those things as suffering. I've got my own knee-jerk oughts, we ought to think about it this way, but like it really is going to depend on the person.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where I stand on that one, at least for now.
All right. I just wanted to see your thoughts on the idea of non-existence being better. To me, that tells me that they believe some kind of state resting in peace before we were born, like there was some kind of peaceful oblivion, something like that, before I existed, which that doesn't make sense.
No, not at all.
I wasn't. Yeah, so that's my issue with it.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you there that when annihilation is the other side of the argument, annihilation doesn't get to be good. It doesn't get to be bad, but it doesn't get to be preferable. It just is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I won't, after I die, I won't appreciate my lack of existence. I won't be like in some kind of state that is better or worse. It's just I'm gone.
No, but
and that lack of existence won't be able to stop at some other life from being imposed. It won't be imposed on me, but life goes on, and so there's going to be plenty of lives after I die.
Yeah. But
my lack of existence won't be able to stop lives from coming after I die.
Agreed. And
material lives.
And also, there's just, I don't know. There are a lot of things other than joy that I would take over annihilation. I feel like needing to go to the bathroom is better than nothing. Maybe not a full, not a perpetual existence of it, but like something, contemplation, a good night's sleep, a bad night's sleep, hell. I think that
I enjoy being frustrated with a existential question or something like that. Like,
oh yeah,
it's not really. I don't. Maybe that's sadistic of me.
No.
Or whatever.
You're talking to somebody. I've played and beaten every single Dark Souls game. I like a good challenge. I like the frustration because I like the feeling of overcoming something challenging. So yeah, and that is all preferable to annihilation. So, and plus, like, it's not like we're gonna miss out on annihilation. It's not like we're gonna, somehow, oh man, I forgot to die. Like, it's gonna happen, So, like, let's...
inevitable.
Yeah, so... I don't know. Let me think about that.
That's why I don't... Yeah, you can't really, like, live in fear of death because it's like you're in line for this terrifying roller coaster, but guess what? You can't get out of line.
Well, and also when you get to the top and you're about to hop on the roller coaster, you realize there's no roller coaster, and then there's no you, and then there's no line. Like,
oh yeah,
there's just fucking nothing, So
like you just waited in line.
Yeah. I'd rather wait in line than get to the part where there's nothing, So I don't know. But then again, my philosophy changes with my depression. I do need to, like, at least be cognizant of that because I have clinical depression. I'm medicated for it. But on bad days, man, for some reason, I rewrite history and I'm like, I'm sad and I've always been sad. Things are bad, but I think they feel like they've been bad for a really long time, even if it's only been a few days. So I tend to rewrite history for myself sometimes, and I don't want people to think that like that's unique to them. So I want to bring that up as a thing. But anyway, you were saying?
Well, I hope things improve for you there.
I
was terrible, but I got on some good medication, and it's like slot machine. You never know which one's gonna work for you, and I just lucked out.
Good.
So
good.
Made a huge difference in my life.
For me, it's the difference between swimming in the ocean and swimming in a swimming pool. When I'm off my depression meds, the depression is bottomless, and it definitely puts a bottom on it. There's a sense of not being able to drop off the face of the earth, but it definitely doesn't make you happy. It doesn't give you a floaty. It just makes sure that you're within an acceptable range. But you know what? I've lived so far for 37 years with my depression, and I'm still happier. I'm still glad I'm alive. I didn't always, and I've definitely had times where I've tried to not do that, but I'm glad I'm still here. Anyway.
Same here.
Anti-natalism. I don't.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I don't get this argument very often. I'm glad that you called in with it. I hope to hear from you again. Let me know if you come up with anything in particular that we haven't talked about when it comes to this.
There was one other thing I wanted to suggest to Summer. You were talking to her about death.
Yeah.
I would suggest or recommend to her that essay. It's called Death, Nothingness, and Subjectivity by Tom Clark. I just wanted to say that.
Death, Nothingness, and Subjectivity by Tom Clark?
Yes. I would recommend that to her.
Okay. Ted, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
All right. Nice talking with you, Eric.
Good talking to you, too. Take care.
All right. Bye.
All right. We have got callers. Oh, my goodness. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's talk to Chris in Scotland. Talk to Chris in Scotland. Hello.
Hi there. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. This is like the death episode. Oh my goodness.
It is a bit. And as for the depression stuff, I can relate to it. But I'm glad that you're doing okay.
Me too. Thank you. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, on the topic of death, I was wondering, do you think a fear of death is rational?
Yes.
Yes. I must agree, although I don't really fear death, but I do fear the process of dying, for example.
That is exactly
pain and things like that.
That is exactly what I was going to say. You, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm not worried about not existing. The process of unaliving seems like it would really suck, though. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I'm right there with you. But I definitely.
Why do you think so many people? I'm so sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, go ahead. Why do I think?
Why do you think so many people are afraid of death rather than being afraid of the process of dying? Why do you think so many people are afraid of not existing?
Because it's the ultimate loss of agency. Right? I already become angry and afraid when I'm disempowered. And I think that's especially true for people who have been disempowered before. And when it comes to loss of agency, that's the ultimate one. You lose the ability to not only control yourself, but to even think. I think it feels incredibly claustrophobic to a lot of people. I think it feels incredibly, It's every fear wrapped into one. And I think that evolutionarily we've evolved to have a fear of death. So I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to trying to get over that fear.
No, indeed. Wow. That was an incredibly profound answer.
Thank you.
I mean, I suppose I'm not, in terms of death, I'm not afraid of not existing. I'm more afraid of losing people that I know to death than myself. But I do worry about that sort of lack of agency and how people, how people would act, and, because you hear these stories about people fighting at funerals and all that stuff. That's the only thing that worries me. But, yeah, that's a really good answer, the loss of agency.
I mean, and really what people have a hard time imagining is not being able to respond. Or, if it, the idea of being frustrated or depressed, or, this whole I have no mouth but I must scream kind of thing. Like, it's hard for people to imagine them not existing without thinking about like what their opinion on it would be at the, like if you no longer exist, or you never existed, you don't have an opinion on it, you don't. No. And I think that's really, really hard for people to wrap their minds around.
No, very true. Do you feel like your fear of death changed at all when you became an atheist?
No, my fear of death changed, similar to Summer's, actually.
I see.
Yeah. I've had incidents that I probably don't want to talk about too much.
So have I. Yeah. I get what you mean.
Yeah. My atheism, if anything, I feel like it more impacted my idea of like morality and ethics, and how or why we should treat each other certain ways. But fear of death, I don't know. I guess I need to think about it, because like I thought about it a lot on my way out,
Yeah.
And I've definitely talked to Christians who, like, I remember I lived next door to a Christian pastor who admitted to me, sheepishly, would never tell his flock, but he was an annihilationist. He thought that the best way to like view afterlife is one where you stop existing, because any eternal afterlife would be a nightmare.
A curse. Yeah, no, indeed.
And so, I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't personally affected that way.
No, fair enough. Well,
but
nonetheless, it's been nice talking to you again. It's been quite a short call, but it's been very profound.
Scott, or Chris, sorry. Chris, it is, oh my God. I read that you're from Scotland, and I called you Scott. I'm a moron. Chris.
No worries.
Every time you call in, I love talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. You're very welcome. It's been amazing chatting. You've given me a lot to think about.
Good. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Before I move on and talk to Sven, I want to give one more bit of behind the scenes stuff, because I said I'd be doing behind the scenes, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you what it looks like after the fact. So I'm going to screen share. Again, here is Wirecast. And before that gets way too complex, I'm going to show you what Adobe Audition looks like. So I do use the Adobe Suite. I have this secondary program running in the background where I'm recording myself. You can see the waveform. And if I stop, you get that nice line. And I have this secondary for all of the callers. It helps me clean things up in post when I do clips or podcasts or anything like that. It is really nice to have. And if you are going to do any kind of live programming, I do recommend running a safety copy that you can use afterwards, just to give people a cleaner version. Usually the audio is much better afterward than it is during the live show. And that's because I go in and I clean it up. And then when it comes to video, I have Adobe Premiere. This is what the file looks like for the intro for this video. It's pretty simple. It has different layers, all with this audio track underneath. Something I put together with V back in the day. It was a lot of fun. Just creating this audio file would take a while, but yeah, no, it was something I absolutely loved. And then if you do get into video editing, you can wind up doing things more complex. This is the file. This is what the file looks like for the boys video that I did with Drew. It's a little more complex, but it is a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend if people want to check out the hobby, Adobe Premiere or just the Adobe Suite is really, really fun. That said, let me get rid of this and I'll move on to our next caller. Sven in Washington, thank you for waiting. You're live on the show.
No problem. Good morning or afternoon. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well. I'm in the same time zone as you. I think so. You're in Washington, right?
Yes. Good old 10:30.
Yeah. So what'd you want to talk about?
I guess primarily about this. I find it to be a leftover cultural value judgment from the Enlightenment, but there's this high, emphasis value on intellectual honesty. At least that seems to be the only, I don't want to say accusation, but boundary that I have come across. And
Okay.
And I've always been consistent. And so it's like a matter of, to me, it's like where scientists preserve precision, where there is accuracy. And like you could value accuracy, but precision has led to so many more scientific advancements that we, value it over reverse. But do you see where I'm coming from? Whereas there's still both important things to value.
I'm having trouble following. Do you think you could describe that one more time for me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I guess I should also say, like, a lot of my belief comes with admitting that there are axioms that I have, and I am not a Christian. I am not what they would call a precept apologist, but I would have what you call presuppositionalist ideas because I have additional axioms than what nominalists have. But I am consistent in admitting that. I'm honest with that.
Well, can I stop and give you a little bit of affirmation?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has axioms.
Correct.
And I don't feel like treating axioms as something that you need to admit to, as if it's something that's a problem, is the way that we should treat it. Because axioms are oughts. I ought to do this, right? This is something I have a high value in, and that I want to aspire to, right? Or like for example, the axiom of wanting to know as many true things and as few false things, right? I'm going to do things towards that axiom, or putting a high value on reliable forms of experimentation so that I can get to consistent results. Those are axioms, and so I don't want to like poo-poo it, but I also am very open to changing my axioms and letting go of things that are not useful or beneficial. So anyway, that aside, please continue. Sven? Uh-oh. I may have lost Sven. Sven? There you are. Hello? Hey, I lost you for a minute.
Oh, sorry. Did I get caught kind of at the beginning? Do you want me to just run that real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I guess in layman's term, you could refer to it as like a crutch. Someone offers a crutch. Like you often hear an atheist say, like, oh, it makes you feel good, boo-hoo, it's just something you need. And they kind of like try to say they don't want to be paternal and accept that people might need this comfort thing, and that
what is
there could be value and agency in having it. Go ahead.
What is the comfort thing?
Believing in abstract concepts like a god, the good, spirituality, and afterlife, souls, things that don't conflict with the things that do not conflict with the empirical sciences, but add meaning to the world, which atheists always say, or atheists tend to say that you create your own meaning. And so a lot of spiritual people who aren't dogmatic religious atheists are like, well, this is what we are, make sense of the world. We find that knowledge is an axiom, or, you know, these things are just foundational to the world and how we relate. And it's
Yeah.
shit on, excuse my language.
I don't know why people think that they can't cuss on the show. You can absolutely, you're fine.
It's a formality from thousands of years of Christianity, probably.
Well, okay, so I feel like we're kind of going in a direction here that I don't know if I follow, and I don't want other people to follow. So let me try this. You just said that you have a Christian upbringing. So is that's something that you're familiar with?
Methodist, yes. Not dogmatic Baptist with any trauma, thank goodness, but progressive Methodist, yes.
When you were a believer, was praying really beneficial for you? Did it help? Did it feel good?
I wish. No.
No?
No. I quickly became just a classical Platonist once I took philosophy in university.
I'm talking about like middle school. Like for me,
prayer? No, because no one spoke back to me, and life was pretty awful. So I had a deist view more than anything. I did not believe in miracles.
Okay.
Ever, thankfully. Well, it was an Old Testament thing. Jesus was the last person to do miracles in my teaching.
Gotcha. I definitely felt like I was sending letters to the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. You know, that I was somehow getting a message across the void to this bigger thing. And I really appreciated it. I liked it. Even when I was losing my faith, I thought that prayer was really, really useful as a meditative, practice. But for me, as I really kind of thought about the consequences of not believing in a God, and kind of dissecting what that means for the rest of the world, I found that no matter how much I liked prayer, it was not useful because I didn't get the same feeling from it anymore. Right? It didn't give me joy, and it's not because I sat there and went, oh, as a good atheist, I'm just going to stop praying because that's stupid stuff for stupid people. No. When you really know that nobody's on the other line, you stop talking into the phone because it doesn't feel the way it used to. And so for me, when you're talking about having these kind of spiritual beliefs, the idea of souls or the idea of, some kind of spiritual, stuff, if I believed it, if I accepted that stuff to be true, I could imagine myself taking solace in it. But it feels hollow for me because I just don't believe it. And so I need to be careful about the way that I approach it with other people, because I can't expect other people to feel the same way that I do. So when you talk about the benefit of it, it could be beneficial to people who believe it, I guess. But that doesn't mean that there's some inherent benefit to it. And I definitely don't want to take the argument in a direction where we view it as something that is inherently beneficial, because if you don't believe it, it's not going to have value for you.
I would love to contest in a longer format that the data shows that spiritual belief is beneficial to human beings, whether that's evolutionary or because there is spiritualness. Of course, is up for debate.
Well,
the statistics does show that there is at least an evolutionary benefit to.
You know what? I wouldn't even contest you there, because the point that I'm making isn't that people can find benefit in it. The point is that I don't think it's inherently beneficial. Like, it's probably useful to the people who believe it. But that doesn't mean that it is always beneficial, because I'm an example. It's not beneficial to me because I don't get the same thing out of it that other people do because I don't believe it.
I'm just not so certain that could be so easily swept away as like being labeled wrong. Like if someone
Oh, I didn't say that it's wrong.
accepted that prayer. No, I know you weren't saying, but that tends to be if we were to have a debate over whether people praying because they believe someone is listening, whether they are right or wrong, someone's there, I'm sure you would think they're wrong, right?
Well, no. And this might be where I kind of don't fall in line with other atheists. And that is, praying, I think, can be a form of meditation. Praying for intervention is wrong. Because
I would agree. Yeah.
if you are removing yourself from being able to take action to make your life better, if you're hoping for a miracle instead of doing things that are going to help get you to a better life, then I feel like that could be really awful, you know? And so I don't have a problem with people praying. I just have a problem with people depending on an interventionary God to make their lives better. Right? Human hands solve human problems.
Right, and I try to preface it by saying that it in no way interferes with what the empirical sciences have shown us of the world. Like, these are what people in an honest way, what I say honest way, would say are additional axioms. You know, they are additional presuppositions to why we understand the world the way we do and what we believe.
Sven, I don't know if
especially in truth.
I don't know if we're going to have too much to I don't know if we're going to debate as much as you think. The question...
So you would just say that you do not value intellectual honesty, as like atheists would call it, that much, as some atheists do.
What do you mean intellectual honesty?
I mean, I would love to know. That's the only thing that has been thrown against me, and I... that I
Got it.
I don't know.
So
please let me know. I've tried to look into what it means, and the only thing I can see that it means is that people they're holding different standards. But I think it is okay to admit you hold different standards. There are different situations that allow different standards. It's different to believe something is foundational versus emergent. Oh, go ahead, please.
No. That's just the nature of the call-in show, right? Like, there's going to be a bit of a delay, and as long as we're, generous with each other, we're so good. Sven, can I give you a different rubric to kind of view this through?
Sure.
Okay, so when earlier, there was an earlier call with Matt when we talked about justified true belief. I don't know if you heard that conversation. Mm-hmm. But I talked about rationality and being internally consistent, right? I feel like when a lot of people talk about intellectual honesty, what they're talking about is what they feel is rational. And they might be grading you based on what they think is rational, not understanding that you have a different tool set than them. You can be rational in your own mind, given the, epistemic tools that you have. But that wouldn't work necessarily in my mind because I've got a different tool set. It doesn't mean that mine is necessarily better. It just means that it's different. And if you had, let's say your interlocutor is saying, I can't accept your position because I would not be intellectually honest. I think that might mean for them that it would be irrational given the way they understand the world. That doesn't mean that you are somehow intellectually bankrupt. It doesn't mean that you're intellectually dishonest. But it might mean that for them to say the same thing that you're saying, they would need to have a different epistemic understanding of things, if that makes sense. Does that? Maybe I said that poorly. Uh-oh. Sven, it got really quiet again. It feels like there might be parts that are kind of breaking off. I don't know if you're still here, but...
I was here. Sorry. I don't know what was wrong with my connection.
No
Which
worries.
sounds pretty well. I know it's 10:30 if you needed to head out.
That's okay. I want to talk to you. I want to make sure that like I'm getting this kind of across, because I feel like this is a good thought, but because it's my first attempt to chisel at it, it's rough around the edges. So I want to see if I can get this right.
Appreciate that.
Is what I said, does that make sense, or was that just kind of word salad?
It did. I think you're just basically saying that they, to them, my thought process is intellectually dishonest compared to their thought process. For them to follow my, kind of when you, in a debate, I was even trying to think of the word, when you concede something, like they would not be able to concede intellectually, honestly, and like still hold their values.
Yeah. I think so. It's the same as, you know, there are pastors who I know personally, who I talk to, and I might disagree with them on a lot of things, but I think some of them are really great people. You know, I have personal relationships with them that are great. They're friends, right? For them to say, you know, there is a good and loving, all-powerful God, to them, that works out in their head. And they feel like it's rational, it jives with their understanding of the world. Cool. For me to say that there is a good and loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God would be intellectually dishonest, because that would not jive with my understanding of reality. That doesn't mean that the person who said it is bad or wrong necessarily. It just means that it's consistent or inconsistent with your own worldview. You know? So if someone were to accuse you of being intellectually dishonest, in my experience, what they're saying is, that doesn't sound like that is consistent with what you've said before. And that inconsistency is leading to different answers, you know, using the same logic. Does that help, or does that work in the context of the way that you've interacted with it?
That is the way you assume it would be meant, is how I would assume as well. But as I said, I've been pretty staunch in my...
Well, and also, Sven, people can be assholes. Like, I've definitely interacted with people who've accused me of intellectual dishonesty who have no fucking clue what they're talking about. You might be interacting with those too.
I guess. I don't really... On comedy and that is actually kind of... Yeah, sure.
Hey, you know what? I'm
That's
trying...
a very...
I'm trying to help...
No, I understand.
Yeah, but... I don't know. I feel like people throw...
It's like, oh, their ableism exists. It's not exactly like a...
I guess that's fair. I guess I'm just trying to...
It is a shitty thing. It's, you know, people...
Yeah.
Not,
but if
it's a consistent thing, people can find... I feel like, I don't know. They can be punching up, but it's not really a comedy, and when it's life to me...
That's true.
And I find it sad when there's a large minority of atheists who can get power and be like, this person's intellectually dishonest, and they're troll, and nothing has been done.
Well, then let's together use this call to call people out. Okay? Let's take this moment and go to the atheists, to the non-believers, and the believers alike. Intellectual dishonesty is something that means things. And if you're throwing around intellectual dishonesty as an accusation without understanding what it means, you're part of the problem. Do better. How's that?
I have proof of cultural understanding of words, especially when there's serious things that can come from it. So I agree strongly. Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely. I'm happy to call out my own side, especially when they deserve it. So, cheers to them.
Like I said, I'm much more aligned, sadly, with Neoplatonist Christians than atheists, but I'd rather hang out with atheists than Christians any day of the week. So I find myself in an odd predicament. But
if you find yourself wanting to have a conversation that is intellectually honest, call, and I'd be happy to have it with you.
Awesome. I hope you have a great Sunday, Eric, and thanks for tossing this idea off with me.
You do the same. Take care. Drop call. All right. Do I have time for one more caller? Oh my gosh, it's getting late. Ashley in Minnesota, I know you've been waiting on the line, but I know we're running long. And I think I'm going to do a bit of an after show just to hang out with people and talk. And there were some really heavy subjects. And so I'd love to kind of decompress with a couple of people. So Ashley, if you could please call in next week, I'd love to talk to you. That said, I want to read super chats. So I'm going to do that. Off the Chain Atheist sent a super chat, says, "Hey Eric, apologies for missing the day, but happy belated birthday. Hope it was a wonderful day." Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's really sweet of you. And My Unfinished Journey says, "Hail Nero, hail Eric, and hail rationality." That makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. If you like what I do and you want to support the show, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration, and join us in the after show. We're going to be going to Discord. You do not need to be a patron. You do not need to be subscribed, although that helps. Join us. Come and say hi. The link is in the description. And if you have not, please like and subscribe to the show. Every little bit helps. It helps us get out there. It lets the algorithm know that it should be recommending the video, and I would really appreciate it. That said, I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful time today. If you were wondering about starting your own show, starting a podcast, doing streaming, hope some of that information helped. I'm definitely open to helping others as well. Like I said, I do I do consulting on the side. So if there's something that you really need help with, you can hire me. You can go to contact skepticgeneration@gmail.com. That said, have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week. And until next time, I'm glad we had this talk.